podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
There's no question about that.
Well, this is it. Here we are to talk about Premier League football.
Football. It's a whole new ball game, Paul.
What
No, wait, hang on.
strange...
That was 25 years ago.
It is a whole new ball game, though, isn't it? And this is our closed season preview because we're done with nostalgia content. That's it. Never again until we need to again. It's time for action, and it all starts at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium on Friday
night. Yeah.
Friday night.
There are, in fact, two games on Wednesday night. Arsenal versus Manchester City and Aston Villa versus Sheffield United, which are the catch-up games. So those four teams have got 10 games to go. United have got, and everyone else has got 9. But yeah, we start on Friday against Spurs. And it's a really critical game. If you look at United's fixture list, it's a big one. Really big. I mean, they're a few points behind us, but not that many points behind us. And then we've got Sheffield United, who are competing with us for the Champions League places.
Hello, everybody. It's Paul here from the future, from about an hour. In the past when you listen to this, but the future from when I'm about to say what I'm about to say. And everything that comes between now and the end of the show has to be put into the context that Ed knew that we were talking about 5 places for the Champions League, but I didn't. So my lack of understanding about the maths will become a lot clearer. And yes, my official position from the future is that, yeah, of course we're going to get Champions League if 5 places count. I mean, I say of course. That's a bit strong. Anyway, back to the show now. I hope you enjoy it. It's fine. There's a bit about politics at the end that you might want to skip if you're that way inclined. But, apart from that... In fact, no, don't skip it. Force yourself to listen to it and then choose not to ever listen to the show again. That's also fine. Bye, everyone. Back to me and Ed from before I realised things. I mean, let's go through the situation because I'm sure most of our listeners are familiar with this, but just in case, and Liverpool are going to win the league, Man City are going to come second.
They might not. No. Story doing the rounds this week. The Mayan calendar was interpreted wrong. It's next week that the world comes to an end.
I mean, if this is the last podcast of ours you ever hear, thanks for listening. Yeah. Good luck in whatever comes next. The Liverpool have 82 points. City have 57. Leicester City have 53. Chelsea have 48. And we have 45 with a massively worse goal difference than Leicester and a marginally better goal difference than Chelsea.
Right.
So behind us... Wolves on the same number of games, 2 points behind. When Sheffield, he said Wednesday there. Sheffield United,
controversial.
They've got both of these teams have got much worse goal difference than us. Sheffield United have 43 points, same as Wolves, but a game in hand. That game against Arsenal. Spurs on 41 points, and then Arsenal on 4.
Is it City, Arsenal, and Villa, Sheffield United this week?
Yes, you're right, absolutely. My mistake. I thought you were saying Villa are next in the league, and I was like, no, that I don't know much, but I know that's not true. So Sheffield United on 43 points, then Spurs 41 with the same number of games played as us, so they're 4 points behind us with maybe make upable 7 goals worth of goal difference. That's going to be difficult to make up unless some big results happen. And then actually worth saying that Arsenal are on 40 points. So if they win their game against City, that game in hand, they're right up in the mix again. Right. So on the same number of points as Wolves and Sheffield United. So the top 9,
it's tight. Well, apart from Liverpool, it's tight.
Yeah. From 4 to 9 in particular, there's a 8-point swing. So really, the Champions League place, which let's say that Leicester's kind of 8-point cushion over us is substantial enough that unless they start terribly, we don't really have to have them massively in the conversation.
Well, I think City are going to crumble and we can chase down second.
Yeah, possibly that could possibly happen. But yeah, there's just a huge amount at stake, and it all starts before we even kick off. It starts with those games featuring some of our Champions League rivals.
Yeah, it's going to be absolutely fascinating because, of course, there's so much in the mix here. We've had 3 months off. Everyone's coming back. It's the longest they've ever had off, and at least in sort of living memory, how that is going to play on the team's ability to hit the ground running, which they really need to do. 9 games going. There's no like taking a few first games sort of easy here. Every point really counts massively. So we'll see how that plays into that. How different training regimes that the clubs have had will make a difference. United had quite a relaxed approach, basically letting the players do their own training regimes until they got together at Carrington 3 weeks ago now. And injuries and the return of players, we're getting Pogba and Rashford back. That's a huge boost, just massive. Spurs getting Kane back. Not too many other major injuries. Chelsea are really not getting anyone back. So how will this figure into it? Of course, the coronavirus testing situation, that's going to be interesting. Each club is going to get tested twice a week, about 60 tests per club. We've already seen some. So our Stoke manager tested positive. It ended up cancelling a friendly game that United had planned against Stoke. We ended up playing West Bromwich Albion instead and lost to them once, beat them the other time. So all these things are going to come into play, I think, and it makes for a really unpredictable situation. And then you've got games crammed in, sort of 9 games in 6 weeks, plus the FA Cup. It's really going to be fascinating. Fun to watch.
Yeah, and I don't quite know how to address previewing it, because I think that the most important thing to say is anything we say here, well, it should always be taken with a hefty pinch of salt when it comes to predictions of what are going to happen. But I think both of us would say there's never been a worse time to predict outcomes, because there are so many variables. Who adapts best to having had the time off? Which coaches have used the bit of time off where the players have been back together, the kind of effective pre-season, to do the most effective kind of planning and tactical work and all that kind of stuff? What are the fitness regimes, and how do they stack up to the demands of playing just an insane number of games without any let up? And of course, who adapts best to playing in such abnormal circumstances? That is almost going to be one of the most, who can get themselves the most professional, the most committed and up for it in alien circumstances with no fans.
Well, correct, yeah. And alien circumstances with no fans, and the impact that has on home advantage, as we've seen with the Bundesliga, which has been up and running for nearly a month now, it has had an impact. It has wiped out some of the home advantage. What is also done, I think, although it's a small sample size, to be fair, has sort of separated the best clubs from the other clubs. Yeah, because that home advantage, small club, good crowd, gets the team going for a result against a big club. That's not happening. At least some anecdotal evidence that is true. So do all these things actually play into United's advantage? And I think they might do. The size of squad that United have got, with players returning, able to cope with all these games, no burden of European competition until the Premier League is over. Many of the other clubs are not used to playing Saturday, Wednesday, whereas United are, or Sunday, Thursday, as it has been. And I don't know how the crowds will play into it, but if it's a case of this being the great equaliser, well, United do not play too many clubs above it. Well, we play Sheffield United just below us, Spurs just below us, and Leicester above us. Does that actually play into our advantage? As well, it may well do, and there's I know I'm usually the cynic among us, pointing to all the reasons why we'll fail and doom is imminent. But I think there's a lot of reasons to feel fairly positive, given all the caveats we've said about we can't possibly predict any of this.
Yeah, so I guess the one thing that we've really got working against us is our lack of pole position, which Chelsea have got that position. I mean, let's take Leicester out of the conversation. As I said earlier, Chelsea have got pole position. That 3 points could be invaluable come the end of the season. Of course, I mean it's basic maths, isn't it? They can make a mistake that we can't make. Their goal difference at the moment is slightly worse than ours, but it's negligible really. If they win, you know, they're 2 goals worse off than us, so that's gone in the blink of an eye, isn't it, one way or another. Let's talk about their fixtures. They play Villa, City, Leicester, West Ham, Watford, Palace, Sheffield United, Norwich, Liverpool and Wolves. We're not really going to talk about home and away because, like as we've said, the Bundesliga, I think the statistics from the last round of games was something like 43% of teams normally win at home, and it's down to 21% in the small sample size. That hasn't necessarily been the case in other leagues, I understand, and Bundesliga 2, that's not happening so much. But let's say that continues. Villa, City, Leicester, West Ham, Watford, Palace, Sheffield United, Norwich, Liverpool and Wolves. The teams in and about us, Man City, who knows what level of kind of commitment and togetherness they're going to show. Are they going to try and, you know, salvage some pride from this season? Is Pep going to be able to galvanise them behind, you know, the frustrations of not being in Europe?
Who knows? They have nothing to play for.
No,
nothing.
Absolutely nothing. Just pride, and maybe that will be enough because their pride should be hurt by their very tepid defence.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. And we were actually talking about Chelsea, I suppose, but with City, the other thing that's going to play into this is that the court case against Cass is coming up, but you can almost certainly guarantee that most of the big name players there are thinking about a way out.
Yeah,
because 2 years out of the Champions League is an awful long time for a top player, especially some of those who are a bit older. Say, David Silva's off anyway, but Kevin De Bruyne must be thinking about a move. You know, and
how and
Leroy
where?
Sané's trying to go. There's lots of questions about City. It wouldn't surprise me if they didn't have a very good end to the season because it all points to that. Although there is the Pep factor, and he doesn't really accept anything less than the best. Chelsea's really interesting because they're playing City and Leicester. I mean, City, all those caveats, but Leicester, they did have a bad run of it just before the break, but they've got all their players back now. They managed to win their last game before the break. Part of their challenge is, of course, having a thin squad. They're all refreshed. We'll see. And then they play Liverpool and Wolves, and they should be tough games, but who knows whether they mean anything in the last week of the season.
Yeah, so those are their last 2 games, and Liverpool won't be unless they are somehow on for some kind of record at that point, which they might be. And I guess the break means that the break means they're much more likely to get some sort of points record because they're not going to have the kind of the intense relief of getting over the line. They surely will have felt like they're over the line for the last few months and can really kind of galvanise. So maybe they'll be going hell for leather. But you'd imagine playing them on the penultimate game of the season, that'll be an easier fixture than it would have been playing them next, say. Again, this is all wild swings of speculation. But that run-in for Chelsea, they are playing quite a lot of mid-table-y teams, aren't they? They're playing Villa in the relegation, West Ham are in the relegation. They got to play the relegation teams too. So I don't know. Our running and Chelsea's running is very similar, isn't it?
Yeah.
Really.
Well, did we go through it? Spurs, Sheffield United. Then we got the cup game against Norwich, Brighton, Bournemouth, Villa, Southampton, Palace, West Ham, and Leicester on the final day of the season, which could be a massive game for who takes second.
Yeah.
So there's. I mean, we had just before we came on air, we were chatting about what it means to play teams in the relegation zone because United are playing all 3, and of course, playing teams in the relegation zone, you're playing teams that are not very good by definition, don't you? And versus the sort of notion that they'll be really up for it. Maybe they will.
Yeah, and to me, I would rather play Newcastle, who are not going to get relegated but aren't very good, than a team that's fighting for their life in the relegation zone. Like, everyone from 10th to 14th, that's Burnley, Palace, Everton, Newcastle, Southampton. They're the teams that, unless they really blow it, aren't getting dragged in, because Southampton are currently 7 points clear of the relegation zone in 14th place. So, I'd say that those teams really those are the gimmies, and whereas Brighton, West Ham, Watford, Bournemouth, Villa, and not so much Norwich, because unless Norwich have a kind of very good run very early, they could very well be cut adrift quite quickly. There's an awful lot to play for those teams, and yeah, I just don't know why you wouldn't be relishing a game against a relegation team at this stage of a season, would you?
Yeah, I'd love to have some good data on this, actually, because the idea that teams facing relegation somehow fight harder or could be a tougher game sounds appealing. I just don't know whether it is, because actually, by definition, teams that get relegated are the teams that aren't getting very good results. But of course, this is all wild speculation. We have to do this because otherwise you've got nothing to talk about.
Yeah,
it's actually very hard to preview what's coming next because of all these sort of caveats around the season. And normally we'd talk about all the wonderful signings United had made and what a wonderful summer we'd had, and the genius that is Ed Woodward in pulling off the bargains of the summer. Instead, we have Odion Ighalo's extension, which is, we've talked about it already, on balance a good thing, because we have more striking resources going into the end of the season than we would have had otherwise. Many more.
Yeah, let's have a conversation about United then, more specifically, and what the team might look like and all those sorts of things. I've got a question for you. Without looking it up, who has the most league assists for Manchester United this season?
Most league assists for Manchester United this season. Pogba's hardly played. Bruno's only just arrived. Let's say it is Marcus Rashford.
It is not. It is Daniel James, who has 6 assists in the league this season. Marcus Rashford has 4. And then you've got Pereira, Martial and Fernandes after 5 games on 3 assists. So fair to say that Fernandes is doing pretty well with the ratio of assists. I mean, he's averaging a goal. What is it? A goal contribution, a goal or an assist every game at the moment, with 2 goals and 3 assists in 5 games.
Which was a great start to his time at United. Great start. And there's been a lot of talk about what a leader he is as well. So not just the influence on the pitch, but his influence off the pitch, and he that's playing a factor now coming back into training. He's the kind of character that's demanding more of his colleagues. And as we said, we've got Marcus Rashford back, and of course Paul Pogba back. And this is the big question, isn't it? When you talk about United, how do you balance all those resources into what is looks on paper should be a very creative, attacking, destructive unit, but which hasn't been for most of the season. That's where United's problems are. And the question about United's fixture list and all those games against some of the teams around the relegation zone. And why it could be worrying, of course, is that United have struggled in games like that. Newcastle, Bournemouth, Watford. Who else have we lost to? Burnley, although they're mid-table, but lost in games where you would expect a team chasing Champions League to win. Now, can Ole find the alchemy to unlock Bruno plus Pogba plus a fit again Marcus Rashford? Surely that's not a team that struggles against lower table opposition.
Well, I've got a question for you. Without looking it up, which non-defender or goalkeeper has played the most league minutes for Manchester United this season?
Non-defender or goalkeeper,
all the top 4 are all. This is the 5th most league minutes in the squad. Top 4 are all defenders and De Gea.
Wow, it's a tough one, because let's have a think. So non-defender or goalkeeper.
Yeah.
So midfielders. Bruno came late. Pogba's been injured. Matic was dumped for a long time. Fred's played a lot. McTominay had an injury. Daniel James has played a lot. Rashford had an injury. Martial in and out because of the injury. Let's say Fred.
It is Daniel James with 2,175 minutes. You almost got it. You at least considered him, which I don't think I would have done if I'd been asked that question. I think just would have assumed. But yeah, remarkable. And perhaps a little bit of a pointer as to why we've struggled so much to not because I think Daniel James is useless, but because he's just not the player that should be. He's just not.
Right.
He's
That's not what he was bought for. He wasn't bought to be a starter. He was bought to be a young player who was coming in to learn his trade.
Yeah. So I've been thinking about starting 11s and partly just watching The Last Dance, which I'm sure many people have watched that listen to this in lockdown, and thinking about the notion of, starters and subs. And my starting 11 for United at the moment looks something like De Gea, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, Harry Maguire. I guess Victor Lindelof because that has been the partnership. But I'd also be happy to see Maguire start alongside Bailly a lot, just to see if you could build a partnership there. At left back, I think you can justify Williams or Shaw. That's fine. I don't have a massive dog in that fight. Obviously, like to see Williams there because you're sort of looking at the future. Shaw tends to have done better this season when he's played in that back three. But I wouldn't be necessarily thinking about starting with that back three because then you just play McTominay, Bruno and Pogba as your midfield three. Play Martial, Rashford and Greenwood. Greenwood's got another 3 months of maturity under his belt. Kind of, that's quite a big percentage of his age, given how old he is. But yeah, so that'd be my starting 11.
Yeah, it was interesting, the team that played against West Brom. So in the two games, I can't remember who played against who now. But in one of the games, the back five, as you'd expect it, started. So De Gea, Wan-Bissaka, Maguire, Lindelof and Shaw. And then in the other game, the sort of front 5-6 started. So it was Matic, Pogba and Bruno, Martial, Rashford and James who played in that one. And I don't know how much of a signal that is to Ollie's thinking, but it might well be.
It's probably fair as well because Matic really did come into his own at the back end of last season, particularly in the game, not last season, the back end of the Apertura. He really did come into his own in the back end before the virus thing hit. And especially in games when we were on the front foot, he played really, really, really well a number of times. And of course, Fred's had a really good season. He's had a much better season than almost anyone else in the United side. So I think any of it, you think that Fred, Pogba and Bruno is going to be, it's going to be frustrating to watch Pogba in that formation because he's going to have to do a lot of work that you wouldn't want Pogba to have to do.
Yeah, a couple of things to think about there. Of course, there's been a little bit of a debate in social media this week. Gary Neville getting involved in this notion of whether Bruno and Pogba can play together. They certainly can. You wouldn't want them playing in a 2 in midfield, Lampard and Gerrard style. But in a 3, they certainly can. Then the question becomes who's the most disciplined behind, and I think that's probably McTominay or Matic. Matic looking very trim in training. The question there for me is entirely about how fresh is he? He's had a long time off, and that will help him especially because much of his time with United he's looked burnt out. And how much does he want it? And again, much of his time with United, he doesn't look like he actually wants it at all. But if you can get all those things in Matic, then he's going to be a very valuable player. And him or McTominay are interchangeable. Yes, Fred I think is now an option, and which is unfair on him because he's had as you say, a very good season for him. But yeah, a very good season. Then the question with Pogba and Bruno is who is the 10 and who's the 8? And you'd imagine, given the kind of disciplined role that Pogba played for France at the World Cup and how successful that was, even though it's not the role he wants and it's the role that everyone assumes he can't do, that it would be Pogba. at 8 and Bruno at 10, because that's basically where Bruno played most of his... How many games? 8 games?
5. Well, never mind the Europa. I'm just talking about Premier League. So
5 plus Europa League, yeah. But Bruno had played in a double pivot 8 at Sporting, as was much discussed. And so he's obviously perfectly comfortable playing in a deeper position. Then comes the second question, which is they are both sort of high risk, high reward players, aren't they? Right, both of them. And we talked a lot about Bruno's passing percentage. That's because he's trying stuff all the time. So does Paul Pogba. And so he's playing both of them too risky in certain games because of that, or not, you know? And does that mean if you do that you'd be playing without the ball a lot, especially against better sides? And I don't know the answer to that, and I'm not saying one is right and one is wrong, but it's certainly something Ollie will be thinking about.
Yeah, so in the World Cup, a lot of the time, Pogba just played at 6 in a 4-2-3-1. He was the 6 and the player alongside him, which was Sissoko, I think, at some point. No, that's the Euros before that. I can't remember who it was that played alongside him in the World Cup off the top of my head. I mean, Conte was in the team, wasn't he? But yeah. Anyway, Pogba was barely an 8. And one of the things I think you could do, it's a shame Louis van Gaal isn't the manager in some ways, because they would be so perfect for the 2 8s in a Van Gaal 4-3-3 with a 6 and 2 8s, you know, rather than like 2 behind a more advanced player. If you've got one player holding, I mean, it was Carrick in that Van Gaal side. You have one player holding and then Pogba and Fernandes on either side ahead of them.
Right.
Because one of the things they both do a lot is win the ball back. So
yeah. And in fact, this is what we may see. I mean, formations are fluid. Ollie's teams have proven to be fluid at times. I mean, they've proven to be very defensive and play on the break. I'm not sure that that's how you're going to get the best out of that particular combination of players. I think maybe front foot forward is going to be quite important. And in fact, you know, we talk about, and I talked about it a lot, Ollie's teams playing on the break, but actually they're one of the teams with the highest percentage of possession on average in the division. You know, we had this complete dichotomy of games where we have 30% possession in specific matches versus those with 60% at home, but it being a bit vanilla at times. So this is all in the mix, and I think they're both intelligent players, and I expect United will go out against Spurs, given the lack of home advantage with no crowd there, given how fresh everyone is, to be fairly bold. I mean, it's all depending on Pogba being fit, of course, but he played in that game against West Brom and he was looking pretty good.
So I guess I'm sort of talking in very general terms about what United will look like this season. I think there is every chance that against Spurs he plays that back 3. So he plays Shaw, Maguire, Lindelof, and then Williams and Wan-Bissaka, and then 3 in the middle and Martial and Rashford together up front. I mean, that could be really fantastic. You play Pogba, Fernandes and whoever, and let's say Matic. That's a team that could adapt to having the ball if Spurs want to sit off, and a team that could cause just immense terror on the counter-attack.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good call. They may well do that. And Brandon Williams coming into the left back slot with Shaw, or I guess Bailly, now he's fit in the back 3. Bailly played against West Brom. Didn't injure himself, which is a bonus.
Unlike Phil Jones, who got
a muscle injury in training.
It's not funny. It's not funny. It's sad. Yeah, so there are definitely options there. I mean, I want to talk just very briefly. We've talked a lot about Pogba and Fernandes, and it's going to be fascinating to see what happens. Of course, I'm sure we're both very much on team play them both as much as you can, because why wouldn't you want to do that? What do you think is going to happen with Mason Greenwood between now and the end of the season, in particular in the Premier League? Because obviously he's played a lot of his games so far. I mean, he's made 18 substitute appearances in the Prem and only 4 starts. He's, of course, course, been a real regular in the Europa League. So what do you reckon in terms of? So he's made 5 starts and 2 sub appearances. Not. That's a lot, basically. The third most total appearances in the Europa League for United, and he's been brilliant, scoring 5 goals in those games.
I think we'll see the same pattern. He's going to be an option off the bench. I don't expect him to start too many of these games. There's only 9 games to go, plus the cup game, and who knows? It's quarterfinal, so we may have a couple more on top of that. It's a crowded schedule, but it's no more crowded than the period from sort of October to December, is it?
I guess not.
And these players are fresh, so I think he'll be an option off the bench. Assuming and look, either way, I expect Martial and Rashford to start, whether it's 2 up front with a back 3, or Rashford coming off the left where he's been so productive this season before his injury, and Martial up top with someone else on the right hand side.
Yeah, and that's someone else. That's the question. I really, I guess, because that. I mean, as I said earlier about those minutes played with 25 starts, that has been Daniel James. I mean, he started a lot when Rashford was injured. It was him and Martial playing up front together in those 2s up front, wasn't it? So he has started there, but he started a lot of games wide on the right, and to me, I'd almost want to see Greenwood at least as much in the Premier League as Dan James. Just, I mean, talent-wise, I think there's a fairly substantial talent gap between those 2 players.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's fair. I just that's how I expect Ollie to do it.
Yeah.
There's another option, of course, which Ollie hasn't used very often, but could do, which is a diamond in midfield, so a flat back 4. With a diamond in which you could get Bruno, Pogba, Fred and Matic into the team, or McTominay.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I mean that would then ask a lot of our fullbacks, which I'd be more comfortable with Wan-Bissaka and Shaw or Williams than I ever would have been with Valencia and Young. But it's I guess you could definitely do that in some of the games where we're expecting to dominate possession in particular. Although I'm not sure it's really necessary to. I don't really know what massive advantage it would convey to be able to squeeze all 4 of those midfielders in, rather than have 3 attacking players on the pitch. I mean, 3 forwards. Sure. The other thing that could happen a little maybe is Ighalo playing games up front to share the load, and I wonder whether you might even see a front 2 of either Martial and Rashford plus Ighalo to, depending on how the load and muscle injuries and all that stuff is stacking up, and red zone and all that business.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, Ighalo hasn't started a Premier League game. Did start the 1 in the Europa League? Can't remember now.
I can find out for you.
You can find out, yeah. I mean, obviously he's got some goals and he's an option, of course. Yeah, I don't imagine. I mean, it doesn't feel like the time to rotate. I mean,
right.
Like that said, right, players have had a long time off and not much time training, and the time they've had off while training has been at home on a treadmill or in the garden or occasionally illicitly in the park or whatever. And it's one of the reasons why, and the risks associated with that, short pre-season and a long time off, is one of the reasons why the FIFA has allowed 5 substitutes, and the Premier League have taken up that option. So, of course, there will be rotation in that you'd expect managers to use many of those substitutes in games in order to reduce the risk and bring players back in. Pogba's definitely a candidate for getting another injury, given he's not played a game since December the 26th. Right? And even then, that was a comeback after an injury as well. So I would, even if he does start on Friday night, I'd imagine that there's going to be quite a few of these early games where he plays 60 minutes at most.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wonder whether Rashford, who also, had a really long injury and a really difficult one and a really load-based injury by the sounds of it, if it was a stress fracture, there you've got a lot of players that are going to need some pretty careful management. And it all starts on Friday unless there's anything else you want to say about the sort of general pattern of the season, it all starts on Friday against Tottenham Hotspur. And evil incarnate, the joy destroyer, the walking human dementor himself, a man who really did break lockdown to train illicitly in the park. The Crown Prince of Darkness himself, Jose Mourinho. Will Ole be patting Mourinho on the head once more?
I hope so. Yeah, a column by Daniel Taylor this week saying that Mourinho's been putting the word around that he thinks that Ole could be out of his depth at United, which we are allowed to say as Manchester United fans. He, as the scum who tried to burn down the club down before he buggered off or was fired, he's not allowed to say it.
Well,
it might be true.
He would know a lot about being out of your depth at Manchester United, wouldn't he? Because it turns out that a man who was once one of football's most sort of compelling characters has become a terrifyingly dull parody of himself. I was talking to a friend who supports Tottenham and just like sympathising with him, really. It's just absolutely horrendous having Jose Mourinho as the manager of your football team, isn't it? So
it really is. It really is. And I just wonder how much more horrendous it'll be with Jose, because of course, the thing that he feels the need to do more than almost anything else at a club is change the personnel out in order to get the players he wants and he feels comfortable with. And he's not going to be able to do that at Spurs. He didn't get much in his first summer. First summer?
No summers. Yeah.
No summers. Yeah.
He has had no summers. Pochettino was their manager.
I know he didn't get much in his first window.
Yeah.
So, of course, one of the interesting things about Jose is how he reacts to his current situation at Spurs. He didn't get any players in the January transfer window, and he sets his kind of stall out, I think, as a manager by who he can have in his squad. He wants the players that are his players. His type of players, and he's proven that again and again. And he's not going to get anything in the summer to come after this season is finished, because Spurs have said they will not be spending any money. They had to borrow £175 million from the government, or Bank of England, at very low interest rates, but said publicly they won't be spending it on transfers. He's going to get nothing. They're going to get freebies. The cost to them of there not being football, the rebate, and no crowds in their very expensive new stadium is really critical to their business model. So, yeah, I mean, he's going to have to prove, he's going to have to become the manager or the coach he once was at Porto and do it on the training ground.
Yeah. Do you think he will A, succeed and do that, or B, implode in a miserable failure? The fascinating thing about their long-term future really is Harry Kane, I think, because as we've talked about a lot, I mean, he's just 26 years old, Kane, but all the evidence suggests there's a steady decline in his output, touches in the box, non-penalty XG, all the stuff that you would be looking at if you were a nerd, and trying to work out whether a player is kind of like past his peak. Now, of course, that could be a result of a lot of football over a long period of time and very little break except for injury. Maybe 3 months off is going to be just what he needs. I wonder how many players we can say that about. They're all going to be coming back as superheroes at this point, having had this break. But they're a squad with a lot of issues, and I mean, that's not to say that they aren't a really dangerous first opponent for United. Mourinho will be absolutely desperate to win this game, and for more, I mean, just for every reason you can imagine. There's all the pride stuff around United and wanting to prove that he is not a busted flush. But never mind all that. If they win this game, they're on 44 points. We're on 45 points, and
sure,
they are bang in the mix again.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big stretch for them to catch up with Chelsea. It's a 7-point gap for Spurs. That's a big stretch over 9 games, but not impossible. Although they're asking Chelsea to fail and United to fail and Wolves and Sheffield United and so on, right? So
yeah.
I didn't look up the models, but I'm sure the model will say something like it's a less than 10% chance of Spurs making the top 4, and I think that would be about fair. So they have to basically win every game, I imagine. But you're absolutely right. Jose will be desperate in this first game for a number of reasons. I just wonder. I wonder whether he will be so desperate, whether that will got through to the players. We'll see. It's clearly him getting players together in the local park to go training. He's looking for every edge possible, and of course Jose would. And then Kane, look, he may be forced to stay at Spurs for another season at least, because no one will be able to stump up the money that Spurs will want. Or maybe the money is so critical at Spurs that they'll try and sell him. He certainly will want to go, I'm sure. He's not going to say it publicly, but he's 26 now, and Spurs are not going to get in the Champions League this season. It seems very unlikely, and it feels they've gone backwards a little bit. He's got to be putting that into his calculation. I'm sure he is.
So 538 have reduced their home field advantage by 10% in their model to reflect their no crowds thing, and their current predictions are 95%. This is to make the Champions League. Leicester 95%, Chelsea 79%, United 75%, and then it's down to 23% for Wolves, 11% for Sheffield United, 10% for Tottenham, 5% for Arsenal, and 1% for Everton. Like you said, about 10%. That's where they've got Spurs between now and the end of the season making that top four. It's interesting that us and Chelsea is kind of much of a muchness, really, 79 and 75%. It's really,
yes,
who
which
knows?
would work, of course, if you think of it as a 2-horse race, but it is definitely not.
It's very. I can't tell you how much saying those numbers out loud just fries my brain, because it's like, no, that doesn't. I don't understand how you can use percentage in those terms. How can that be possible that they have a 79% chance and we have a 75% chance? That doesn't make sense.
Yes, see every major media outlet and the 2016 US presidential elections for frying brains. Yeah, people don't understand the probabilistic models. But anyway, the sad fact is I had to do this, a lot of this, more than 20 years ago now, because I'm now old. But some of it is stuck in my brain somewhere deep in the cerebral cortex, in the kind of monkey part of my brain at the back.
Listen,
it's a reptile brain, isn't it? It's a reptile brain at the back.
I was just going to say, I've done a lot of training in that area, and I can tell you that it doesn't matter how much you study it, predictive models don't go into your limbic system.
They do here, and I'm getting very angry with you telling me. Psychology joke there.
It's good. See, we got you got your economics jokes, you got your psychology jokes, you got your jokes about how Jose Mourinho is evil incarnate.
He is. Spurs have us, West Ham, Sheffield United. That's going to be a big one for them. Everton, Bournemouth, Arsenal, another big one, Newcastle, Leicester and Palace. I mean, I don't know how that ranks against our running, but it feels some of that is tough for them, for sure. I mean, us, Sheffield United and Arsenal, and then Leicester. There's 4 really key games when you've got to win everything.
Yeah, and of course, like, what is a key game will change and adapt really quickly, I think, because this could unbunch very quickly. I mean, or it could continue to stay in the weird compact thing of like because the reason we're in this mess is because all season long a team would kind of nose itself in front and then mess up. I mean, Chelsea should be absolutely out of sight. There's no way we should be 5th. I believe we haven't been higher than 5th in the league all season, by the way, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, there's no way we should be in this position. We've blown so many points that we should have. But then I guess we've earned some points that you wouldn't have expected us to earn too. So
I think we're going to be 5th all season till the final day of the season when we beat Leicester to go 2nd. That's how it's going to be.
Yeah, that's definitely possible, right? Maths. I think that Man City are qualified for the Champions League, but I don't understand how that's possible.
Yes, qualified and not qualified.
Well,
they've got enough points. Yeah,
that's what it is.
Yes, I mean, I don't know when that CAS case resumes. I mean, presumably they're not going to hold this over Zoom, so it could be some time, but UEFA will have to make a decision, and I guess if it all stands as it stands, they will be out of next season's competition, presuming there is one, and we haven't talked about Europe yet, and I guess we'll finish with the Premier League and then talk about exactly how that might work. But yeah. Anyway, so United v Spurs. How do you think it's going to go? What kind of game are we? What kind of team are we going to put out?
Well, I think we'll play that back three, and I think it might be formations might be matched. They might be matched up against each other. I guess, and I have no idea how it's going to play out. Just genuinely, absolutely no idea. You know, often we kind of joke about plucking two numbers out when you're predicting games, and that's been true for some of the Europa League games with literally no sense of the opposition whatsoever. But here, I don't know how you can hope to predict a result because we have no idea. All the stuff I said right at the beginning of the show, who's going to react best to the new circumstances? Who's going to react best to having had a break? Who's going to be reinvigorated by that versus out of touch because of that? I mean, I think for the first time ever, I would almost say we sort of owe it to the listeners not to predict results for this match because it just seems so silly to try and predict a result.
4-0 to United.
Yeah, go on, 4-0 to United.
No problem.
Yeah. Bruno and Pogba with two. No, all four of the Fab Four, Martial, Rashford, Pogba, Fernandes, each with one.
Yeah,
5-0. 5-0. Greenwood off the bench to get a fifth. 6-0. Odin's going to come on to and score one.
Yeah, well, he probably will. Dribble around six players and bang it in the top bins.
Possibly.
Why not? Yeah, of course, United just having come off that loss to West Brom, we'll be in fine fail for this one.
But I thought we lost first though, right? So we've already bounced back.
Yeah.
So
I don't even, to be honest, I don't even know if they played full games.
Right.
Some players played in both games.
And by the way, I know we've mentioned this earlier in the lockdown, but shout out to Marcus Rashford for being apparently seeming to be an absolutely staggeringly good human. Like, just done remarkable work all the way through this, and an absolute credit to... I mean, I was going to say a credit to the club, but never mind that. He's just the kind of player that you want to root for, and a huge credit to his family.
The @LUHG crowd on Twitter are still calling him Trashford, by the way.
Yeah, right. Well, good luck to all of them.
Just burn them all to the ground. Yes, he's... and I think he'll be completely pivotal to United's finish to the season, I'm sure. Yeah. I mean, his spin around, albeit a West Brom defender, this week in the friendly game was absolutely lovely, wasn't it?
Yeah, beautiful. That's the sum total of what I've seen of this training, and it was worth it, to be honest.
Andres Pereira stuck one in the top bins.
Well,
we haven't talked about him at all.
That's him using up all his powers between now and the end of the season. Then I hope we don't see much of him at all. We shouldn't. I guess we might see him in the Europa League. So what is happening? And let's try and do this quickly because this has already gone on a bit longer than I was necessarily expecting. What is going on with
you want us to preview 9 games and a season for 6 or 7 clubs, and you want to finish it inside 45 minutes? Never going to happen.
No, true. So what is going on with European competition?
Well, look, it's like a bunch of caveats here. We don't even know whether all the seasons that have started again, and it looks like it's going to be, I think I'm right in saying it's 28 seasons around Europe are restarting around about now. And a few have binned it off. So France, Holland, Scotland, and one other of the reasonably sort of second-tier leagues have ended their seasons. And, I mean, I guess those teams are still in European competition in theory because it's only the domestic season. We don't know whether international travel will be ready, and we don't know whether all the leagues will complete on time. But the theory is that they'll take place in some kind of mini tournaments. So starting at the quarterfinal stage, I guess, in a single location, a kind of bubble, Champions League somewhere and the Europa League somewhere. It seems to be that Lisbon might be the option for the Europa League. No fans, just a mini tournament played out in August. We'll see. I mean, it's like one of all those ideas that have been floated about Project Restart in the Premier League. It's contingent on so many things, and obviously the risks are multiplied, quite a lot when you're talking about multiple different countries and the risks of international travel.
Yeah. So watch this space.
Yes, and I think the final was supposed to be, the Europa League final was supposed to be played in Gdansk. So you already bought your flight and hotel in Gdansk. Bad luck.
Well, that's gone. That would have long gone by now.
Gone.
This is the
Sorry
weird
about
time
that.
loop. That's the weird
If you
time
bought them
lapse.
ahead of time,
isn't
I
it?
mean, I was looking at one stage going, it doesn't cost that much to get to Gdansk. I might just do it on spec. And it might not even. It probably won't be played in Gdansk. It'll probably be played in this mini bubble tournament type thing.
It's very strange, the whole kind of dilation of time. The fact that we're talking about football and Premier League football, and it's the middle of June. I mean, it's as if time isn't hard enough to get your head round at the moment anyway. It's the middle of June and we're previewing the end of the season. It automatically makes you feel like we're in April having this conversation.
Yeah. Well, look, if all goes to plan, Premier League wraps up by the end of July. Champions League and Europa League wrap up by the end of August. They have a 2 or 3 week turnaround, and seasons are starting again in sort of September time or late September, and then they try and make up some time next season. I mean, but best laid plans and all that.
And I mean, so League One and League Two called the season. They're not able to finish it. There's all sorts of never mind the kind of club's going to go to the wall stuff, which is very real. I mean, the just missing out, a team that was relegated, who were a point behind the team above them in the relegation zone with a game in hand. And you just think, oh, this is just absolutely horrendous. And we should talk about the fact that when football does come back, there's a very good chance it's going to come back without crowds. And then the Football League is in terrible danger of it's going to need something from somewhere, because it won't just survive on its own terms, will it?
No, I mean, so a bunch of those clubs can borrow money off the government. There's this scheme, and some of them might, but heavily indebted anyway. And I expect there'll end up being a solidarity payment from the Premier League, but the Premier League clubs are losing quite a bit of money anyway. 300 and something might be bigger than that. We don't know exactly how the negotiations will end with all the broadcasters and what happens with European football for those who are in it. And so, a lot of imponderables with the smaller clubs. But they did it so they can basically furlough all their staff and reduce as much the payments and the outgoings as possible. And it's comes down to money. Whether you lose more money by not playing games at all or by playing games. Yeah, so it's a decision made in Scotland and France as well, where the broadcast contracts aren't as big.
Yeah, and a lot of French players sort of, I think, probably quite upset that French football stopped when it did, especially seeing leagues around Europe restart and stuff, and
Italy and Spain.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's all the doom and gloom. I guess it's worth celebrating the temporary escapism that football provides. Also worth saying that the Premier League has said they will be supportive of players who want to make political statements, or I don't even know if
it looks like Black Lives Matter will be on the back of shirts.
Yeah, I mean that's big. It's big and obviously beautiful. In my opinion, the Premier League have said they will be supportive of players who want to take a knee, and that's a symbol which carries this tremendous poignancy and potency, given how the players in the NFL were treated by that.
When would the knee taking take place?
I don't know. maybe before games, maybe like, when all the bombast is taking place. And
Just do it as John Terry comes to shake your hand.
If we don't have the national anthem here, thank goodness, before Premier League games. But then, of course, a lot of players have been celebrating goals in that fashion, so there's I'm sure going to be a lot of that, and as well there should be.
Well, that's right, and it's a moment to recognise what is happening in the world, both the pandemic and the great work that our first responders have been doing there, and the players have been raising a lot of money for the NHS and related charities, and for the Black Lives Matter movement and the protests that have been held, especially in the States, but around the world. And I have to say, the worst headlines ever, including the BBC, counter-protests as a bunch of Nazis walked through central London this week. Air quotes for those who can't see this on a podcast, I think it's an awful way of framing that. But so I think that's important, and symbolically, of course. And so we'll see exactly how that plays out in the next week, and which players want to say something. Also interesting, sad, that there's been a renewed debate around the role of black managers in English football, Premier League, but English football more widely. There are no black managers in the Premier League right now. There's been very few. 35% of Premier League players are black or ethnic minority, but it's a much, much smaller percentage than that has ever been a manager or an owner, and that's football shame at a time when we're talking about race a lot.
And if you ever want, evidence of systemic racism and how systemic racism really works, and if you really want to understand like that, what racism isn't about hating people. I mean, of course, it can be about hating people. Those are the most extreme versions of it, but that's not how it normally looks. It normally looks like, oh no, these are all the very good. No, I'm doing air quotes. These are all the very good reasons why there's never been any black managers. And it's like, okay, yep, sure. But anyway, that is hopefully something that football takes seriously. I always end up talking about cricket in one way or another. It's something that the ECB have been talking about, the England Wales Cricket Board have been talking about, because things are getting worse and worse and worse in cricket in that regard in England. So yeah, let's hope there is some meaningful change coming out of all these conversations. And listen, we ain't going to stop talking about it. So that's part of what our show is for, isn't it? So what our show is also...
if you want to leave any feedback, don't go to James and leave it. We do get a little bit of what are these social justice warriors doing? Just talk about football. Just dribble the ball.
Yeah, I mean, listen, that's never going to happen. So if you're one of those people, it's just simply not the show for you, which is fine. It's fine. There are probably shows somewhere that are for you. And
you're taking the Seth Rogen approach, who has systematically not followed Seth Rogen on Instagram and Twitter. Every time a Nazi sympathiser comes onto his timeline, or someone who wants to question the validity of the Black Lives Matter protest, he just tells them to fuck off.
Well, it's along those lines, isn't it? That's really along those lines of, and I just mean, because whilst I have no sympathy for people who have that point of view, I do have sympathy for people who are looking for an escape from conversations because they want a break. That's fine. This isn't the show for that, really. Most of the time we will be. But when there's important stuff, it's, silence is compliance, as they say, right? So that's not going to be... That's never been us, and it's not going to suddenly become us. So with that said... Football also does provide a degree of escapism, so I hope that you'll enjoy watching United. I hope that my sincere hope between now and the end of the season is just that we see some real kind of joie de vivre in the team, and not just United actually, but just football in general. I'm sure the players will be desperate to show off their skills and talents and abilities that they haven't been able to for such a long time. And we've all kind of come to reflect at what sport means to us, I'm sure. It's going to be really nice to have it back.
joie de vivre, and compliance. 2 words not associated with Jose Mourinho.
No.
Who we face on Friday.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, so all right, 5-0 to United then? Is that the official podcast prediction?
Totes, yeah, no
lovely.
doubt.
All right. So we will be back. We won't do a midweek show because as we've done everything that we would do on that show, we'll be back after the Spurs game with a look back at that and a preview of the game afterwards, like it was, I don't know, March of this year or something. So, yeah, looking forward to it, and we'll see you then. Patreon backers,
now.
Stay tuned for more chat.
No question about that.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.